Pathfinder and those kind of things, but more board games like Twilight Imperium or other such board games like Alhambra, basically the kind of things you see on tabletop with Will Wheaton. Will Wheaton. So one of the things that this is really about is there are three major points to consider. The equipment that you need to use and the logistics of streaming, which is probably the biggest topic involved. Second is the type of board game that you select. When doing that, you got to select certain things. Twilight Imperium, I love Twilight Imperium to death, not the kind of game you stream. It's just too hard to keep up with. And I'll go over a lot of the logistics of why shortly. However, the other thing to go over with is the type of people you're going to bring on your stream. If you're going to stream this, you want to entertain people. And typically when you're streaming those kind of games, you need to have certain types of players involved. So they are, in fact, entertaining to your audience on the stream. Because in the end, everyone's going to have fun playing the board game, but if they're not entertaining your audience, the stream itself is not going to go great. So one of the first things to go over is the logistics. When streaming board games, you got to consider how is everyone getting communicated and what they say to the stream. How is the stream seeing them? And most importantly, how is the stream seeing the board game that you're playing? Because streaming board games is great, but if I can't see the board game, I'm going somewhere else. Because you can talk about what you're doing all you want. I can say knight to h5. It doesn't help me visualize the game really all that well. So those are the things that you really need to consider when dealing with the technical aspect. Logistically, the best case scenario is everyone is mic'd, everyone has their own camera, and there's a floating boom mic camera, a boom camera on the board. This is the best case scenario. How many of us stream on the best case scenario? Shattermage, how many of us stream on the best case scenario? None. Nobody ever streams in best case scenario. So
No.
What you really need, best case scenario, is you need 2 cameras and 1 good mic. You can do it on that. Gus, if you can bring up the Amazon thing real quick. When I say a good mic, I'm specifically talking about one like this. This is the Blue Yeti. In fact, that is the black edition. It's the one I have. We have a couple here for the stream we did earlier this week. The black edition is absolutely fantastic. When I was doing my tabletop, as you can tell, I have a pretty booming voice. I can actually take this down and you can hear me perfectly clearly. So that was actually 9 feet from me across the room. It was a long way from me, and I came across the stream crystal clear. I've listened to playbacks. You can ask anyone who's seen my streams. Toothpick Vic is another streamer. Shatter, I think, has popped in before. You can tell even at 8 feet away, it picks you up clear. The danger is this thing hears everything. And I mean everything. Your feet shuffles across the carpet, and the people on the other end of it get shocked by static shock. It's that clear.
The CIA uses Blue Yetis.
They should. They would hear better. So when I say good microphone, 1 good microphone hanging off of a boom stand, perfect. You hang it above the board right next to the camera, and everything that's being done is going to be heard. They're going to hear the dice hit the table. They're going to hear the little character move across the board. They're going to hear it all. This is the kind of microphone you really want. Yes, it's expensive. It is worth every penny. You can, yeah, I mean, what is that price on that? $118. It's actually gone down since I bought mine. If you're going to stream, you want a good microphone. You can do it with the cheapo headset, but now you're trying to mic everybody because the cheapo headset's not going to pick everybody up. There are cheaper ones out there that will cost you about $60, $70, and they're good. They're not as good as the Yeti. If you're going to stream something seriously, you want to get serious about streaming, get good equipment. Good equipment is literally one of the foundations of a good stream. If it comes in and it sounds like this and you're talking and nobody can understand a word you're saying, and they're not going to stay. It's not enjoyable. But transitioning from that, when I talk about a boom stand, if we can go to a boom stand, they're one of the major things. These boom stands are fantastic. They're cheap. You can get one for like $12. That's what I've got. Or you can get the really cool one, which can have like 12 heads and everything. But they're also fantastic. They'll hold the mic up over. They also work really great for holding the camera over the board. Yeah, I actually, that is the exact one I use. Yep. It's cheap, simple. It's a scissor mount. It can hold a Blue Yeti. It doesn't so much like holding a Blue Yeti because the Yeti's heavy. But it can. And it will hold it up, and everyone in the room can be heard easily. It also is really great for mounting your camera. So that camera we're talking about showing the board, you extend it out over the board where nobody's sitting, and it shoots down to the board. So everybody can see the board. Easily done with, like I said, you can do it with two cameras. One camera literally shoots all the players, and the other shoots down at the board. You've got it covered. It's really easy, really nice. Boom stands are what you're going to need. You will absolutely have to have those if you want to stream board games, because you're going to need that top-down camera. Unless, you just want to take duct tape and, glue your camera to the roof, which, I guess that works too. But they will hold, and most of them, like the the $100 one he was showing, can actually hold impact reducers. So if you bump it, it doesn't shake and during your stream, because that's not cool either. But these are the kind of logistics you need. The camera, however, is another one that you can get a cheapo camera. I used my PS2i for a long time. It's a little grainy. Hell, I even used my built-in one right here on my laptop for the longest time. One of the best cameras you can get on the market right now is the Logitech C920. And it is... Oh, that's 922. Okay, this is, in fact, the best camera you can get on the market. It is actually Logitech's new one that just came out. It's basically the C920's big sister. Oh, that one does 60? That's nice. Nice. So, once again, these are expensive. You don't have to have the expensive one. Like I said, I use my PS2 iToy. Worked fine. Yes, they do in fact work fine. But the more advanced you want to get, the better you want your stream to be, the more you're going to have to invest to it. And the more you're going to receive back. And viewership, people who hang out with you, Vic, who just left, I met him on a stream. If he had been a bad streamer, I probably wouldn't be friends with him. As it is, we got him to come to the convention. We hang out. It's a great time. We're great friends. We play a lot of games together. This is the kind of camaraderie that you can actually get by streaming. And if you want people to stick around long enough to join that camaraderie, because nobody goes looking at like Twitch streams or YouTube streams for a bad stream. They want something that's going to really capture them and entertain them. These are the kind of things you want. To give you an idea, I got my entire stream started with a Yeti, a C920, and I don't even think I had the boom to begin with. I got that all started. It cost me, I think, $250. And, people who have spent a lot more on their streams are using the exact same equipment. So it will last you straight up into the top tier. I mean, if you want to get really crazy with it, I guess you could buy a Blackmagic camera. But I'm not Matthew Mercer, and Blackmagic did not give me a $10,000 camera to do my stream on. Yeah. If you ever watch Critical Role, the cameras they're filming with are the high-end Blackmagic cameras. They were gifts. Yeah, that was my thought, too. Blackmagic's like, use our camera. Just tell people you do it. But I'm not Matthew Mercer, so I can't expect Blackmagic to show up and just hand me $30,000 worth of equipment. So, best case scenario, The Logitechs are just absolutely fantastic cameras. As he mentioned, the new one does 1080p at 60 frames a second. It books it.
Sorry, correction. It does 1080p 30 frames, and it'll do 720 at 60 frames.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, correct. Sorry.
So it boosted the 720, but the 1080 is the same as the C920 then, because the C920 will do 30 as well. 30 is actually as much as you really need. If you're doing anything fast, yeah, you'll want the 60. But 30 frames a second handles anything you're going to really need. So that's some of the equipment that you're considering. Now, best case scenario, we're going to go over best case scenario real quick. Best case, you have 5 of those. I said best case, not the case that you're likely to have. The other best case is to have lapel mics for all your players. That's, yeah, you know, they're only like $300 a piece. Mm-hmm. A good lapel mic, about $800. Yeah.
No, it's talking about the Countryman. The Countryman mics are like $600 to $800 for a decent one.
Yeah. So that's the kind of stuff you want to look at. You want to be able to, like I said, you want to get all your players on, and you want to get the board. You want everybody to be able to hear all your players. These are the important things. So what you're basically going to need, you're going to need like 2 boom stands and a camera sitting on a book over across the room. I mean, it's really that simple. The next big thing to consider is the type of game that you're going to stream. Now, like I mentioned before, I love Twilight Imperium. Twilight Imperium is by far one of my favorite games in the world. It is so overly complicated, and you'll play for 9 hours, you'll finish the game, and you'll go to bed that night and be like, man, I should have done this, or I could have done that. Next time I'm going to do that. And all you're thinking about is, I need to play this again. But it's not good for stream. It's terrible for stream. And the reason is there's way too many pieces. You look at the board, and there is just way too much going on that board. Your viewer's not going to be able to look at it and see it from a boom stand, because you got to capture the whole board. When you look around, you're looking at one point. You're looking at one point. Players can do that. Viewers on a stream cannot. They can't read the cards. They can't view them. So when you do that, it's got to be something that they can see and visually identify what they're looking at easily. Yes, on tabletop, they actually use a Geek Chic table that has been custom modified. Yep. They do that for the rules. In fact, Will Wheaton has actually specifically mentioned Twilight Imperium as one of the games they will never do on tabletop. But the reason being is it is complicated. It doesn't stream well. There's too many pieces. It's hard to keep track of on camera. If you don't have 10 grand to drop on a custom handmade wood table, the hanging camera is by far the better option. But Will Wheaton is right. The best way to stream board games is to find games that stream well. Things like Legendary, Tantacore, they're all simple games that you can easily identify while you're watching. You can do a quick top-down and you can see them. Now, once again, I'm trying to go over things that you can stream for the average person. Obviously, if you've got 500 grand to drop on a stream, you can stream whatever the hell you want. You've got the equipment. You've got the help. You've got the people. Will Wheaton has a crew of like 20 people. He can do whatever he wants. And a Kickstarter, who earned $1.5 million for one season. Gee, I wish I could earn $1.5 million for 20 streams. Don't you, Vic? Do 20 streams, earn about a cool $1.5 million? That'd be nice. But that's the kind of stuff you need to consider. Chess, great stream game. Very boring, not a great stream game, actually. But as far as the complexity, that's the kind of thing you're kind of looking for. You're looking for something that you can easily stream, something that you can look at and see what's going on without having to be like, what? So beyond that, the other thing that needs to be considered, what do you got? If I remember, BattleTech is exceedingly complicated. Yes, so is Twilight Imperium. Not a great stream game. Like, let's stream Warhammer 20K. I have no idea what's going on that. Yeah, they have a lot of cameras involved. Yes, and that's kind of the idea, is to find games that you can do that aren't too complicated to see. If you have to look at it for more than a few seconds to identify everything going on the board, it's probably too complicated for a stream. Because the players are going to be moving and changing it constantly, and the people viewing need to be able to recognize what's going on easily. So that's the kind of stuff that's really important. Like, I love Netrunner. Netrunner's another great card game. Probably not a great one for stream because things change so fast. Does it? Okay. And you know what? You actually hit exactly what my actual next point is. Almost as important as what games you're choosing is the players you have playing it. You're streaming. Your goal is to entertain an audience. And to entertain that audience, you can't just have people who sit down and be like, okay, knight to h6. You know, you can't have people who just get so into the game they're not really paying attention to the fact they're on stream. You want players who are going to have their phone open with your Twitch stream running so they can see what the chat's saying, who are going to get into the character of the player that they're doing. You want people who are going to do that and who are going to engage that stream. And when they play a card, they say, I'm playing this and it does this. There's that involvement. You got to keep that going. The entertainment aspect has to be there. There has to be a dynamic between the players playing. If every other second you're looking up and going, you stupid bitch, to a player, not really the kind of player you want in that group. You want to be able to have that dynamic and really entertain the people who are doing it. I'm sorry. Come back for the tabletop one, it gets even worse. Because that one gets even more strict. But, so you want people, I hate to keep going back to Twilight Imperium, but it actually has the perfect example for just about everything. In like Twilight Imperium, each race has its own purpose, its own goal, its own thought process. If someone pops out with the X-Mentat, which is basically the friggin' Borg, if that player looks up and starts going, you will be assimilated, and starts getting into the character of their race, it comes even more fun because it engages people. It creates these characters, creates that environment that people want to be in. And while that's not absolutely required, if you're playing games that have character cards that you are, it helps if the player can act like that character, be like that character, because it pulls people in and identifies a player. If I don't know this player from Joe, then that player being a character, if that player's Deadpool, I'm going to know because he's going to talk to me because he's Deadpool. But that's the kind of stuff that you're really looking for when streaming these kind of things. You want players that aren't just going to be involved in the game, that want to be involved in the community. They want to be involved in the stream. They want to put on a show. So it really helps to have that kind of player base. And the type of players you have can often determine the type of games you'll play. Because if they get really into fantasy-based, Descent might be a good game for you. It's decently complicated, but it's usually focused in one area. But they also have characters. You can be Jace, the battle mage. You can, be the knight, the paladin. And you could act those characters. You can be that way. And it just makes games more engaging for people on your stream. And once again, the more equipment you add, the easier it gets to pull those people in. But, like I said, you can do it with, 2 cameras and a hanging mic. It doesn't really get complicated. This one specifically is for streaming. Obviously, if we want to address YouTube, doing YouTube, it actually gets a little bit easier because you can have different cuts. You can do whatever you want with the camera. You can even play a lot more complicated games on YouTube because you're not restricted to that boom mic, that boom camera just hanging there. If you want to do something, you can pull it down and move it over, and now you can make cuts to show that. And long games, you definitely want to keep the timing of games careful. You don't want to play games that are going to take 12 hours. Games that take that long just aren't great for streaming. However, for YouTube, because you can do cuts and, in the interest of time, speed up and show rounds go by fast or cut things and make it easier. Best example to show about how well that works is actually tabletop. If you watch an episode like Pandemic and then go watch the extended version of Pandemic, you will see how often they stop for the cameraman to get another shot or for them to readjust the board or tweak something that they screwed up. Or look up a rule or call somebody who's like, this rule isn't this, and then argue with him about the rule for 20 minutes. Or let Seth Green tell another joke on the X-Wing episode. Highly entertaining if you like Seth Green. I do, so it was very, very entertaining. But that's the kind of stuff you can do on YouTube. Their extended editions still have speed ups and are like 3 hours long. The regular episode is 30 minutes. They shot for like 5 hours to play this 20-minute game. So you can do that on YouTube because if you're not streaming YouTube, it's a little different. But if you're doing captured video, edited, and cut, you have some more leeway because you can stop and you can pan over that board. You can really show the detail. Someone does something crazy, plays a card that does something insane. You can zoom in on that card, explain what it does. You can explain everything going on. When you're streaming, it needs to be a little bit snappier. Because no one wants to sit there and hear you explain the 50-page rulebook of Twilight Imperium for the 7th time in the last 20 minutes. Because it's a 60-page rulebook, and nobody wants to hear you explain that ever. There are games that are that complicated. As much as I love Fantasy Flight, I would avoid pretty much any Fantasy Flight game. They're just too complicated. I know, I love Fantasy Flight. It's hard for me to say. But Fantasy Flight have very complicated, very intricate games. There's a couple that I would deign to go against that on. Imperial Assault is one of them, which was sort of a Star Wars style Descent game that have level ups and experience gain. It's a really great game. So going through that would be great. It would work out fine. However, I would not suggest too many Fantasy Flights. Once again, Twilight Imperium, not good stream game. Because it's so great, and everybody loves Twilight Imperium who plays it, and it's way too complicated. It's one of those games that even for YouTube, it's maybe a little too complicated because there's always just so much going on. I mean, unless you're literally cutting whole turns and rounds out of the game, there's just too much happening. Because, I mean, you only get like 3 actions. That's great. When those actions involve, I build a fleet here. I move this fleet there. This fleet attacks that fleet. I play this thing to change the rules of the game entirely. Little too complicated. Then you have the bribery and the voting, and it just doesn't work out well. So, in general, the type of game is probably one of the most important. But keeping a couple cameras, I mean, you can do it real easily. You could have 2 cameras, like I said, one on the players, one on the board. To as complicated as multiple cameras on the board and a camera on each player. From one hanging blue Yeti, which will capture everything, including the cat in the next room coughing up a hairball, to everybody has lapel mics. You can go any level that you want, and it really doesn't matter. They will turn out as great streams. Like I said, C920s, great cameras. You can, in fact, pull it off with a PlayStation iToy. It's going to be a little grainy, but it works. I know, I did it. And all I heard was, it was a little grainy. So I think that really does cover a lot of the equipment and necessities. As far as like player types, I wanted to touch a little bit more on the player types because the player types will determine a lot of things. I mentioned before they determine the type of games you play. If you have a fun, happy group of players, play something short, play something quick. Legendary, great game if you have a bunch of fun, happy players. Descent, great game, not Descent, Dominion. Great type of game if you have a bunch of happy, fun players who want to hate each other later. Resistance, fantastic game if you want to ruin friendships. If you have a group of people who are great at reading each other. I knew a guy who could look at you and know exactly what card you had. He would know what gender your rebel was. That guy was a dick. He was very hard to play Resistance with because of that. But if you have those kind of players, it's fun because now you're constantly pointing to them, and when he's the traitor, it's even more fun. Because it's really the type of people you have. As Will Wheaton said, diplomacy, the game that destroys friendships. Munchkin is the game that makes you hate friendships. Thirst. Some people have water. I apparently have papaya. But the type of game, the type of people you have playing will determine the type of game that works really well for your group. If you have really good people who love to strategize, play a strategy game. Imperial Assault's one of those ones that works on stream because your average mission is 45 minutes. And it's very tactically based and heavily leaning on the one lucky SOB who gets to be the Imperial forces. Everyone else is screwed. But it involves a lot of thought. It really does depend on the type of player. But no matter what type of group of people you have, they have to want to get into the character, want to be that player. They have to want to put on a show. The one thing that really helped when I was doing a tabletop game was the type of players that I had. They could be serious one moment, and then the next moment we coined the phrase #shitnanigans. Because in-party jokes and starting crap is just fun. 1 second. Ugh. I can only talk straight for so long, right? I don't know how you do it, Vic. You never shut up, and you just never drink anything except rum. I just don't get it. So, that's the kind of thing you really need to look at, is what kind of players do you have? I didn't know if you were like going to do some crazy kung fu thing. I was just going to watch, but like, that'd be pretty cool. But like the type of game you have, if you have people who don't want to compete against each other, play cooperative games. Cooperative games are great. They're great, fun games. Fighting against the board is just one of the best things in the world because they're so hard. that everybody just has a great time working together. Unless you have that one asshole who's the party dictator. And every group has that asshole. Yeah, I'm that asshole half the time. But things like Forbidden Island, Forbidden Desert, these are great stream games. They're small, they're simple, there's not a lot of pieces going on at once. But you can really get invested in, I don't want to die. I don't want to drown on this fucking island. I actually haven't played the Battlestar Galactica game. Is it a co-op versus the board kind of game, or? Oh, okay, so it's Ruin Friendships game. Yeah, it's Resistance with a Battlestar theme. Okay, so it's got a little bit more complexity than standard Resistance. That actually sounds like a lot of fun. It should be streamed. Somebody do that. So, like I was saying, the players will determine that type of game. If you have a bunch of people who don't like fighting, play co-op games. There are a ton of them, and varying degrees of difficulty. Ghost Stories is a co-op game that once you figure out the trick is a cakewalk. But you still have to do things in a specific order or you can lose. But then there are games like Pandemic. The game that cannot be beaten. Pandemic is evil. But it puts on a great show. Especially when you start naming the diseases. If you have a group of friends who, like I said, wants to be happy-go-lucky, there are tons of card games. Tantocore if you have a bunch of perverted friends. Because maids. Seriously, go look it up. You're hiring and betting maids. It's what the game is about. It's fantastic. It's Dominion with maids. Tantocore. If you have some serious strategy friends, there are a ton of games involved in that. Descent is a great game like that. Imperial Assault, another one. If you like the 4v1 games like Vic, who does nothing but play Dead by Daylight, despite the fact we want him to do something else. Then things like Imperial Assault and Descent are great games because one person is the overlord. And the others are people trying to get through the dungeon. These are the kind of things you can do. You can have fun. I completely lost my train of thought. Train chat, no! I haven't. But that did remind me of Exploding Kittens. Exploding Kittens is a fun game. You can have a lot of fun with it. If you want to do a more perverted version, there is an adult with Exploding Kittens. It's like, what is it, Exploding Kittens After Dark or something like that? Not Safe for Work. That's what it was. So, there are games for every group of people. And the more you can get people, the more you can align the game with the type of group that you're playing with, the more they're going to get into it. And the more they get into it, the better the stream is going to be. And like I said, almost everybody's got one of these now. Everyone. Twitch has an app. You can set it to chat-only mode. So your players, while they're playing, can literally have Twitch chat running on their phone. They can interact. They can do things. So your players can read what the chat's saying. If you screwed up a rule, the chat will tell you with authority. And you better read it, because they will start screaming if you don't. Never screw up a rule. So that's the kind of thing that really matters. If you can get a group of people that have similar interests together to play a game, you can get them involved and get them moving and having fun. And the only step that's different than any other board game night that your friends come together with is now they have more people in the channel to interact with, to tell jokes with, to have fun with. And that's really the only difference between your average group and streaming it. As long as you pick the right games and are able to get the faces on the board and the board clearly shown, that's all you need. If you have a group of friends that can have fun, you can have fun. It really doesn't matter. It helps if you have a bunch of friends who are goofy, complete nerds who will sit around and be like, "We on the board? Lower your shield and surrender your vessels." Because X-Men Tat are insane. But that's the kind of thing. I mean, if you're in it and you really have fun, get involved. If you're playing Munchkin, you flip the card, you walk up and go, "All right, kick down the door." You get involved. Have energy. Energy is going to bring people to the channel. It's going to catch their attention, and it is going to keep them there. That's the kind of thing that helps. If you're sitting there and you're like, "I kick in a door, I loot the room," nobody's going to watch that. It's boring. But if you're like, "I kick in the door, a monster," get exaggerated, get fun with it, have fun with it. And that will keep people in your channel every time. People want to see that kind of fun. They want to see people lose their mind when they hit the same friggin' DS dance over and over and over and over and over. And then when you start getting really frustrated with it, you're like, "Why are you so salty?" Sorry, I'm teasing Vic over here because we do that to him all the time. Have fun with your chat. I mean, to give you an example, I had a teacher in high school who went down to southern Kentucky. I'm being from Kentucky. She went down to southern Kentucky and found a can of pop in one of the freezers in some backwoods friggin' mom and pop shop. It was a can of whoop ass. That was the name of the pop. Yeah, it was a little energy drink, I think. She never opened it. And the reason was she kept it on the edge of her desk. And every time the class would act up or start being stupid, like spamming emotes constantly to the channel, she'd be like, "Don't make me open it." And it was absolutely...
I know who you're talking about.
I
think I know who you're talking about.
History teacher, I think.
Miss Sutton?
Yes.
Sutton?
Yes. She always had the can of whoop ass on her
Yes, I remember that.
thing, and she would always threaten to open it. Great teacher. That's the kind of little things that are just goofy that keep people there. And you can do them with board games. Vic does them with games. Anytime somebody hosts, he's got a little saxophone. Dances with it, everything. It's great. That's the kind of stuff that really pulls people to your channel. If you do that kind of celebration, have something that really keeps people there. SD over here has train chat. He lives next to railroad tracks, and the train itself has become an integral part of his stream. It's a thing. Use what you've got. That's the most important thing. Don't try to be something that you're not. If you try to fake it, it's not going to work. You can fake it till you make it all you want. Unless you have split personalities like Vic, it's not going to work. But in general, just be yourself. Have a group of people who are comfortable being yourself. Interact with the chat. Interact with the camera. But don't let it drive what you're doing. Because the moment you start doing that, you stop being you and you start being some persona you put on. And that will eventually wear on you. You're going to go to stream and you're not going to want to be that guy. And you're going to be bitter about it. And that happens. It happens. It does happen sometimes. So streaming board games is like streaming anything else. Have fun with it. If you're not having fun with it, you don't want to do it. Just don't do it. Because you got to have fun putting in that level of effort. And yes, the setup, every time you want to do it, you got to set up a board game, is horrendous. And whatever you do, do not stream the setup of a board game. When you start that stream, that board game should be set up and ready to go. Because no one wants to see you unpack the WoW board game for an hour and a half. Yeah. Nobody wants to see that kind of setup. Skip that. Have it done. If you're playing something like Forbidden Desert, already have drawn those first 3 cards. Get everything set the way they need to be. Explain that's what you did. But you don't need to stream that whole setup. The setup process is long on a lot of games. Can't hear you. Yeah, if you for whatever reason want to have the setup put together, that's the perfect thing to put on YouTube as an accompaniment to your stream. But for the most part, nobody really wants to see. No one really wants to see the setup. I mean, there are a lot of really great games, but like Legendary, nobody wants to see you sit there and watch you shuffle cards for an hour. Nobody really wants to see you pick cards in Dominion. No one wants to see you fondle the maids in Tantaquare. Shuffle the deck in Tantaquare. Is it really? Wow. Are you sure it's out of print? Because pretty much any time Will Wheaton shows a thing, it triples in price for like a month and a half. He did. International Table Day last year, they played it. That could be why it's gone, right? But in general, that's the kind of thing we're talking about, is skip the stuff that's boring. Nobody wants to watch it. Agree on house rules beforehand. Know your game. Absolutely know your game so that you know where things are going to be kind of iffy. So if you do house rule something to speed up the game, that they know why. Look at them. You tell them that you house ruled this. We understand this isn't the way it's done, but we house ruled this to change it for the stream. Some things are inordinately complicated. Will Wheaton explained it on Dead of Winter that in Dead of Winter, normally everybody goes at once. The rules state everybody goes at once. That's a horrible idea for a stream. No one can keep up with that. Most of the players would have trouble keeping up with that. So you house rule it. You take turns. You go in a specific order. So it helps with that kind of thing. So don't be afraid to alter the rules as you need to make it work with your stream. But explain to the stream that that's what you did. It's really actually, I know that it seems like there's a lot to it, but it really isn't. In the end, what you're doing is make sure they can see the board, make sure they can see the players, and have fun. If you don't have fun, your audience is gonna know. I heard Choking Hazard and Legendary Showdown. What was the... Betrayal is a great one to stream. Absolutely fantastic to stream because you can get into it. And you really want to get into it? I did this with my friends one of the times we played. I'm really good at writing and singing and whatnot. So when they would flip a card, it was the creaky hallway. You would tell the story like, as you came down the hallway, you hear the creaking of it. The house almost seems to moan in horrific pain as you move through the hallway. pull that story into that game, and it creates this intensity. And you can do simple things like that, create just a massive amount of effect in the game. I mean, I just did it when they entered it. If you remember where they came through, like we had one player go through the creaky hallway and end in the kitchen. I talked about how he just left the creaky hallway. So if you can do that kind of stuff, it even adds even more depth. But those games have so much intensity already that it just adds another layer. Once you can get that, I mean, House on the Hill is easy. Top-down camera, you show the players, it's cake. The hardest part about Betrayal at the House on the Hill is you're going to want to split it at some point, because you're going to want to do like individual scenes. You're going to want one person to leave, the players to read what they've got to do. The players get up and leave, and the trader come in and read what he has to do, so that the audience knows. Or put the audience in the shoes of the player or the shoes of the trader and only show them one. That's decisions that you have to make on how you want the audience to perceive that game. So that's like Betrayal is one that you have so many options to add effect to the game beyond just it being on the board. Okay. In situations like that, I would say that would probably be a house call. In situations specifically like that where you want to reveal it to the stream, I would say you probably would not want them to actually be on it. I know I've mentioned a lot that they should be on there so that they can interact, and in many cases they should be. But if you're going to want to reveal it to the audience, then they shouldn't be, just because you don't want them to get spoiled by it. And my personal method, and you could do exactly what he said, reveal it to the audience, pull the audience to your side, and have the player and have them be the overlord going, well, I know what's about to happen. Or you can not reveal it to them and have them be the players. It's really the perspective you want to put the audience in and the type of audience you have. If you always reveal, you obviously don't want to just suddenly have one where you don't reveal. It throws the audience off. They're used to knowing, and it'll be off-putting. It might be nice the first time, but for the most part, it's going to be kind of off-putting. In general, though, I would say the audience should be the players in any game like that, because that's what's I think is going to draw them in the most. That's what tends to draw the players in. I like D&D. I love playing. I like DMing, but I love being a player because I don't know what's going to happen. And I think people watching enjoy it from the perspective of the player not knowing what's going to happen as well. And I think that really pulls them in. It happens when you're video game streaming. I wasn't quite as pulled in to Youmacon when Vic streamed it, because I knew what happened. I knew what happened during that tutorial, and it was just wrong. The only thing I was waiting for was what happened when you saw it. So there's joy on both sides. I mean, everyone loves that big reveal. I'm like, oh, I didn't see that coming. But sometimes people like to go, what's going to happen when they find out? So it's really, what do you want to do? In the case, like I mentioned, most of the time you're going to want your players firmly on that stream so they can interact, they can have fun with people, they can screw with the headsets, they can have some fun with the stream. Because the people watching the stream are going to want to interact with more than just one person. If you got 5 people on camera, The people watching the stream want to interact with 5 people. They don't want to interact with one guy. If, in the case where you are going to try to do the big reveal, and you want to reveal it to the audience to their end, yes, you want to tell them, hey, for this session, I want you off of the stream because we're planning something that you don't need to see. So it's similar to something like that. Or like Betrayal at the House on the Hill. If you want to reveal one side but not the other to the audience, have the person leave the room. Leave his phone. Leave what he can actually see the stream with. So that when they leave the room, you can still do the reveal, but they can't see it on stream because you're currently holding the item that they could use to see the stream. It could still technically be spoiled by the chat, and I've been in a few chats with plenty of trolls that might. But if you've got a good community, Vic has one, if we tell them flat out we don't want spoilers, typically they don't give spoilers. Typically. Yeah. Yes. I mean, exactly. You announce it to the stream. Say, hey, when the haunt happens and the traitor's revealed, all my players are putting their phones down. All players are putting their phones down because we don't want to know. Because it does matter. Because the players have different objectives than the traitor at that point, and neither one knows what they are. So Betrayal at the House on the Hill, you can do things, and it really does, and you can change it up. So you can do whatever you need to do. In the end, though, it's all about having fun and pulling that audience in. And if you're having fun, you're going to pull the audience in. It's that simple. If you never play something you're not going to enjoy. It really is that simple. And Vic can attest this. It works as much in board games as it does in video games. If it's something you don't enjoy, people on the stream are going to notice, and they're not going to like it. Vic can attest. There's been games he's played that he's gotten really salty on. And they've been streams where I've literally been like, okay, I'm gonna leave it on, but I'm gonna mute that because I don't want to hear that anymore. Because you weren't having fun. I mean, I know there's knuckle prints in your wall. You broke a $200 set of headphones. When the streamer isn't having fun, the audience notices. And they don't have fun. So whatever you stream as a board game, you want to have fun with, no matter what it is. And that really is one of the most important facts. The people you play with can't be bad losers. I know. But Will Wheaton said it best when he talks about board games. Never lose the fun of playing a game in the desire to win it. If you do that, you're not going to have fun in the game anymore. Obviously, you play to win, but don't let losing bum you out. Have fun, still have fun playing the game. And if you play European-style board games, never, ever rule yourself out. You never know what's going to happen until that last card is played, until the last point is counted. I've played plenty of European-style board games, and I can tell you right now, you don't know who's going to win until the very last player has counted his very last point. Because they're made to do that. You might be like, oh, I'm not doing well. And at the end of the game, you're like in second place or first. You're like, what the hell happened? That's how European-style board games are. So if you have players that get bummed out about losing, play Euro games. European-style games are great for that. There is no getting bummed out in the middle of the game. Because you just don't know. You can be like, I think I'm here and I think I'm there, but you really don't know. Because there's always that last point gather that happens at the end, and it's usually very big. So you can play even your friends who don't so much enjoy losing can play these kind of games and still stream them because of that aspect. It really does just have a lot of fun with a game. I mean, streaming board games themselves is about that. It is about having fun. And if you're playing games that have character personalities that you are, if you have players that can get into those personalities, and even better, have players who get into the personality and make bad decisions, because that's what the character would do. Great. Because if you can play it off as you're doing it because you're Deadpool and Deadpool would rush headlong into the stupid, be Deadpool. Run headlong into the stupid. It's fun. I've always told people even sixes are the best score ever. Put them in things. It's great. Intelligence, charisma, wisdom, constitution's fun. Dex is even more fun. You start dropping stuff. Play it up. Have fun with what you are. If you're a character in Descent, play that character. If you're Stronghammer, be Stronghammer. Fun with it. That's really what matters. A stream will be successful if you have fun with the stream. When does this actually end? 11? Okay, so we are actually running towards the end. Wasn't sure if it was 11 or midnight. Yes, sir? I'm actually gonna wrap up here a little bit. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'm more than willing to answer anything you have. He's just back here like, he fucked this up, and messed that up, and he didn't mention this, and it would have been better if he did this. Perfectionist. Meanwhile, I'm over here with like a wing and a prayer, like, yay, I got this. Because that's how I do things. And he hates it. But I hope I didn't discourage you. I hope you see what you can do. Go out, look at what you have, look at what you can have. Look at your friends and say, hey, would you like to try this once? And give it a shot. Like I said, you got a PlayStation 3 iToy, you can stream. I mean, you got a webcam in your laptop, you can stream. Probably not board games, but you can stream. It's really easy to get into it. And it's not really that complicated. You've got a group of friends, you say you've got a group of friends that you can play with. Pick a European-style board game that fits their mentality, their style. Stream that. Because nobody's going to get upset about the fact they're losing, because nobody knows who's losing until the end of the game. There's all kinds of styles that fit all kinds of personality archetypes. And you guys can just have fun, play the characters, and just enjoy playing games. If you're enjoying playing a game, your stream's going to enjoy watching you play the game. Oh, absolutely. And it really does. I mean, if you talk to the audience, talk to the other players, they're going to feel engaged. Don't make it forced. Don't try to script something. Don't try to do anything. Just have fun. That's what board games is about. Have fun with board games, and your stream will have fun watching you play them. That's really all I've got. Thank you for coming. Glad we could help you out a little bit. Vic, thanks for everything you've helped with. Yeah. You actually asked some questions like, that would work. So it really helped there. The games you mentioned, Betrayal at the House on the Hill was probably one of the best games you can stream. And the more creative you can get with just how you do stuff, the better it gets. So never be afraid to stream a game. If you can see all the pieces, you can stream that game. It's just that simple. And don't be afraid to engage the people and go, this is why we're doing this. So that it's... So... Yep, that was definitely the sign that I should shut the hell up. So, you have a good night, and thank you for coming.
For everyone on the live stream, thank you for watching. The next event will not be live streamed as an 18 plus event. The next event on the live stream will be Happy Fun Time at 12:30 a.m. Stay tuned then.